Welcome to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and soak up all the yellow pill content we're going to be sharing here today and in the future. Shout out to everyone over on Twitter who wanted to see this video, as we're going to discuss the very controversial Agent Smith is the One theory and go over the details of how and why this Matrix theory is flawed. The argument really starts with using Morpheus' description of the prophecy.
When the Matrix was first built, there was a man born inside who had the ability to change whatever he wanted, to remake the Matrix as he saw fit. It was he who freed the first of us, taught us the truth. As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free. After he died, the Oracle prophesied his return, and that his coming would hail the destruction of the Matrix, end the war, bring freedom to our people.
So from that statement, they break the prophecy up into three main topics. Number one, born in the Matrix. Number two, able to change the Matrix. And number three, destroy the Matrix. So let's start with being born inside the Matrix. The very first point this film theory makes is that Neo was not born inside the Matrix, which is only half correct. Now, in a different theory, they'll claim that there is no escape to the Matrix. So if you honestly believed in that idea, the Matrix has Inception-like layers producing a false awakening inside the Matrix instead of the real world, then even Neo's human body would have been born inside the Matrix. But I'll dismantle the second Matrix inside a Matrix theory in another video. In the video that we are taking apart, piece by piece today, they acknowledge that Neo's human body was born in one of the Machine City Harvest pods in the real world. But what they missed is that Neo is a hybrid. His consciousness was born inside the Matrix. This is the part where most people will say, what are you talking about? When is the audience told that Neo is hybrid? The answer to that question is in Reloaded during the meeting with the architect.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision.
Your human life is the sum remainder of an unbalanced machine equation. A machine equation written and created inside the Matrix. Neo's body was born in a pod in the real world, but his consciousness was born inside the Matrix. The anomaly itself is the manifestation of that sum remainder. And the anomaly was created inside the Matrix.
How was he? 10 hours straight. He's a machine.
If it was programmed from the gate, it wouldn't be defined by the creator as an anomaly. And we also know from the architect that in order to contain this immaculately conceived remainder code, the Oracle created a system of control.
I've since come to understand that the answer eluded me because it required a lesser mind, or perhaps a mind less bound by the parameters of perfection. Thus, the answer was stumbled upon by another, an intuitive program, initially created to investigate certain aspects of the human psyche. If I am the father of the Matrix, she would undoubtedly be its mother.
The Oracle.
Please.
The architect's overall description is defining Neo as having origins from both the real world and the Matrix. The Wachowskis also like to talk a great deal about the importance of aesthetics, and one of the reoccurring themes in the Matrix trilogy, but rarely talked about, is this theme of balance. The consistency of balance in these films are no accident, and to that point, the purpose of Agent Smith taking over Bane in the real world is to show the audience that the program/human hybrid is not just possible, but already happening in the Matrix universe. Because if Smith can do it, so can Neo. Yin and Yang. As we also see in the name of balance, both Neo and Smith are reborn inside the Matrix at the end of the first film. They don't show Smith coming back, he just suddenly appears in Reloaded. Which brings me to my next point, where they bring up that the prophecy specifies when the Matrix was first built. We know that this is the sixth version of the current Matrix from the architect. The film theory then goes on to say that we know Neo was not there at all for the original Paradise version, but that we should know Smith was around since the first version of the Matrix.
Did you know that the first Matrix was designed to be a perfect human world where none suffered, where everyone would be happy? It was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost. Some believed that we lacked the programming language to describe your perfect world.
The film theory says that statement implies that Smith was there himself, but we don't really know that. We don't know how much knowledge is available to a program of the system, let alone an agent of the system. For all we know, this could simply be common knowledge available to any program, regardless of when they were written. The other agent in the room didn't seem fazed by the story at all. And what's even more problematic, to making that assumption, the architect tells the audience he repurposed the Oracle after the Paradise version of the Matrix crashed. And this crash happens before you start counting Neos. Therefore, if Agent Smith was around to see the very first original Paradise version of the Matrix for himself, that would also then mean the Oracle did not originally write the Smith program. Why would the system need agents in Paradise? The architect tells us what the Oracle's job was originally, and that was to investigate the human psyche, not writing agent programs. This is a bit of a continuity problem if the idea is supposed to be that the Oracle made Smith the one at the very start, and then lets him sit idle until Keanu Reeves shows up 5 Neos later. So even if you want to assume Agent Smith was written by the Oracle in the original version of the Matrix, he still doesn't go rogue until Neo shows up. It is important to understand that the original Paradise version of the Matrix and the first version of the Matrix with the systemic anomaly, or the One, are not the same versions of the Matrix. It's Matrix Beta and then Matrix 1.0 in this regard. The film theory also randomly throws in a quick reference line where Agent Smith refers to Oracle as Mom. But we already covered, the architect clearly referred to her as the mother of the current versions of the Matrix in Reloaded, but does not credit her with the beta version. The architect wrote beta and admits it failed. My personal interpretation of that mom line was that Smith became aware the Oracle is the mother of this Matrix series, because Agent Smith has only gained power after Neo copied himself onto Smith, exposing the Oracle to Agent Smith, and only in Matrix 6.0 does Smith have this experience.
Our connection. I don't fully understand how it happened. Perhaps some part of you imprinted onto me, something overwritten or copied. It is at this point irrelevant. What matters is that whatever happened for a reason.
And what reason is that?
If Neo can hack something inside the Matrix, so can Smith. Once the connection was established, yin and yang. The film theory takes this time to remind you Agent Smith was reborn a virus inside of the Matrix. But don't forget, I mentioned the underlying theme of balance. Neo is also reborn inside the Matrix right before exploding Smith at the end of the first film. Agent Smith can return from the dead because he has Neo's code copied onto him, and because Agent Smith watched Neo die. Smith witnessed the death recovery hack in real time. Let's move on to topic number 2, able to change the Matrix. The argument says that, outside of destroying Smith, Neo doesn't do any next level hacking. This is simply a false statement. Tank was impressed enough to become a believer based on the things he saw Neo doing in the first film. Not only does Neo have the ability to move like the agents do, stop bullets in midair, fly, and jack himself into Mobile Lab without hardware at one point, but he also flies faster than Link can see him to save Morpheus, and goes even faster to save Trinity, pulling cars off the street in his wake like a flying hurricane, only to then resurrect her from being dead. Those seem like some pretty righteous hacks to me, changing life and death events in the Matrix as he saw fit. We also don't see any other characters in the films doing these kinds of things. In fact, Just before Cypher tries to kill Neo, he says,
Morpheus was right. And there's no way I can pull this plug.
I mean, if Neo's the one, then there'd have to be some kind of
A miracle to stop me. Right? I mean, how can he be the one if he's dead?
Guess what? Neo does not die there. Tank was the vehicle for the miracle that Cypher requested. Neo dies a little later anyway, and then comes right back. Just how many miracles do we have to ignore to make this Smith theory work? More importantly, before the final fight with Agent Smith and Revolutions, the machine asks Neo what he wants, to which Neo replies, peace. The architect honors that deal after Agent Smith is destroyed and allows all the potential red pills to be freed in the newest version of the Matrix. This is the reset version that Sadie makes a pink sky for Neo in, or in other words, the Matrix 7.0, also known as the Matrix Online. For those of us who played the Matrix Online, we got to experience that universe. So, to say that Neo did not make any changes to the Matrix completely ignores Neo's achievement of peace at the end of the trilogy, which was kind of the whole goal of being the one and whatnot. At this point in the argument, the film theory kind of randomly pivots into what is one of the weakest points of this theory, and that is the removal of Agent Smith's earplug in the first film during the Morpheus interrogation. People like to point this out as some sort of super defined act of going rogue against the system, saying that it shows his ability to rebel, when what it really does is ignore the fact that the Merovingian collects exiles.
I've never heard of them.
Of course you have. Every time you've heard someone say they saw a ghost or an angel. Every story you've ever heard about vampires, werewolves, or aliens is the system assimilating some program that's doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
That's right. There's a whole class of rebels to the system, and most of them are at Club Hell with the Merovingian, Persephone, and the Werewolf Company. When you acknowledge exiles to the system exist, you quickly realize that removing an earplug while roughing up a prisoner is not so rebellious after all. This is not even a fireable offense. And most importantly, this does not make Agent Smith the anomaly. And finally, the third topic, destroying the Matrix and ending the war. So during the Neo vs. Smith final fight, the Matrix gets banged up pretty good. And I already explained how peace is honored by the architect and continued through the Matrix Online. So Neo did destroy the version of the Matrix that used the prophecy to control the resets. In the third portion of the argument, the film theory says what seals the deal is that the Matrix will reload when the remainder code of the one enters the source. That Smith openly admits to avoiding returning to the source after merging with Neo. That Smith was compelled to stay. When Smith defeats Neo and goes to assimilate him, Smith is unaware that Neo is jacked in from the Machine City, where the direct hardline connection to the source allows the machines to eliminate the Smith virus for good. Where the theory goes wrong is claiming that Smith holds the anomaly code all to himself, and that the machines needed the prime code from Agent Smith to reset the Matrix. Here's what's wrong with that. The Oracle tells Neo where he has to go to return the code.
The machine mainframe.
Yes. Where you must go. Where the path of the one ends. You've seen it. In your dreams, haven't you? The door made of light.
At no point in the trilogy does Agent Smith go to the machine mainframe inside of or outside of the Matrix. And if you are going to go off of Smith's testimony, then one must accept that Agent Smith also told us
Our connection. I don't fully understand how it happened. Perhaps some part of you imprinted onto me, something overwritten and copied.
which means that whatever code was left or imprinted on the Smith from the anomaly had to be returned to the source along with any code Neo was holding. And Agent Smith has a piece or a copy of that prime code because Neo imprinted it onto him. They both had to be returned to the source. Once Neo copied himself onto Smith, and only after Neo copies himself are they both carrying the prime program required for the reset. It all comes back to yin and yang. In Smith's own words, he tells Neo, "Because of you, I am unplugged." You can call him the 1, or 0, or -1, or 0.5, or even the Highlander. The title is irrelevant, because the prophecy is a hollow construction. Once Reloaded starts, Neo and Agent Smith are connected, half of the same whole. The Oracle knows this, the Oracle exploits this, the Oracle has the opportunity to leverage the absence of a reset for the very first time, because of Neo's choices.
Ain't this a surprise?
You played a very dangerous game.
Change always is.
Just how long do you think this peace is going to last?
And just what dangerous game was the Oracle playing, you ask? Well, it was not lying to everyone about the true identity of the One. We established that the Architect knew the prophecy was trash the entire time, because the Architect is who tells Neo and all of us in the Matrix Reloaded that the prophecy is just a big fat lie. Allowing herself to be assimilated by Smith and empowering him to be strong enough to cause real chaos was the actual gamble that the Oracle took. Giving Agent Smith the power of her eyes was the risky move that gave Neo the leverage to make a deal with the machines. Which brings me to my final point. The real reason why Neo does not reset the Matrix is his specific love for Trinity, a love that the Architect tells us his 5 predecessors did not experience. A love which the Oracle tells Trinity she will fall in before the first Matrix movie even starts. If you consider that the Oracle tells Trinity she will fall in love with the One, and Trinity obviously loves Neo and not Smith, then you either have to completely accept that the prophecy is a complete lie, in which case all those other argument points are null and void, or that Neo is the One. But it can't be both. The problem is choice, and Trinity chose Neo. And if you want to get technical, so did the Oracle.
But for what it's worth, you've made a believer out of me. Good luck, kiddo.
In the end, the Matrix Trilogy really asks you what you believe. And while I certainly accept the logic that Neo was not the One alone, or that Agent Smith and Neo were both half of the One, or even saying neither was the One is more accurate than saying Agent Smith is the One all by himself, because the prophecy itself was a lie, a system of control. Claiming Agent Smith is the One is the only answer here that truly conflicts with the information we're given in the films.
You've never believed in the One.
I still don't.
Then why are you doing this?
I believe in him.
Thank you.
But that's just a theory, a NeoMatrixology theory. Be sure to like, sub, and leave a comment down below. And the next time you see someone saying Smith is the One, don't even argue with them. Just share this video and let that yellow-pilled content do the work for you.